divorce rates
Well,
going?
no, actually what we point out is that families that break up and kids from broken homes are more likely to suffer by quite a high degree these other problems of debt, drug and alcohol abuse, and fail at school. And that's the point about entrapment. What we're actually talking about is trying to remedy these each in turn, but to accept, as a society, we have a major problem on our hands, that we have a growing underclass that, in its dysfunctional way, at the tip of the iceberg, crime is getting more violent, more persistent, and there's a street culture which values violence as part of that structure. Now, dealing with that is critical if we want to reduce the cost.
I'm not surprised by it because the content reflects what children and young people have been telling me since I've been in the post of Children's Commissioner. The harsh reality is we have been failing our children and young people. Now, we can debate endlessly the reasons for this. I'm much more concerned about the way forward. There is hope. Other countries much poorer than us are doing far better for their children. We can do better. But to do that, we need four things. We need, first of all, to realise there is a problem and not be in a state of denial.
Just explain that. Can you just...
Yes. In Sweden, where I've been, children are at the heart of government policy and in community thinking. The rights of children are taken very seriously in Sweden. 20 years ago, they were the first country to give the same rights of protection against physical punishment for children as for adults. In Holland, you go to a public space, you don't see, as in this country, no dogs, no ball games, no children, and you are being watched. There's a very different attitude in society, so we must recognise there is a problem.
And we do it so badly, don't we?
It will take a long time, but we have to start listening to children. We then have to get politicians of all species to have the moral courage to put children at the heart of society. How do we feel about children in this country? Do we actually like children in this country? Why are 70% of media articles demonizing children? Why is the respect agenda putting more and more children into prison? These are some fundamental questions we have to challenge in society.
And it's not just...
The nurture of children should be everybody's business. Parents, families, schools, communities, faiths, and government. We have to start asking ourselves, what are we doing in our families, in our communities, to make sure children are given the best opportunities for the future?
But this Chancellor can't run away from his record. He's the Chancellor who's put the tax burden up. He's the Chancellor who's taken one tax down but put 99 taxes up. The average family is paying £1,300 more because of his budget decisions. And I have to say, we will check carefully what is happening to the aligning of national insurance, because we think it might be hitting middle-income families. But let me tell you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, what the Chancellor's... Let me tell you, Mr. Speaker. I say that probably doesn't help. It's that he has wasted money on an industrial scale. That is the truth, Mr. Deputy Speaker. His great experiment in tax and spending has failed. He's an out-of-date politician, wedded to state control. And the question everybody's asking is, where has the money gone? But this is the where has the money gone budget. For 10 years he's been telling us that education is his priority. He did it again today. But 40% of primary school leavers can't read properly. For 10 years he's been telling us he wants a competitive economy, but he's given us the biggest tax burden in our history. For 10 years he's been talking about child poverty. He did it again today. But the number of people living in severe poverty is up by 400,000. And UNICEF say that Britain is the worst place in the developed world to bring up children. For 10 years he's been telling us about the NHS. Today, barely a mention. All he's done is re-announce this year's money, which we already knew. He's got the figures for the future. Why won't he tell us? Doesn't this tell you everything you need to know about the crisis in the NHS? The hole in the heart of this budget is the failure to fix the NHS. Now, the NHS wasn't the only thing he hardly mentioned. Let's look at what was in the budget but didn't get a mention in the speech. That's always an important list. Soon the Chancellor and his allies, they'll be going round the country and saying the spin, the distortions, the half-truths of the Blair era are coming to an end. Some of them have started already. But actually with him, spin will get worse. Let's look at today's budget. He didn't point out the savings ratio. That is hidden on page 255, and it's halved since he came to office. We could have had a budget about a better NHS, a competitive economy, protecting the environment, strengthening families. But for a budget like that, we'll have to wait not just for a a change of Chancellor, but for a change of government.